And once again, it's asking me if I'd like to leave a video message. Hello, Chris.
Hey there.
Hey, greetings and welcome to the Doctor Who Legacy live stream. You are live in front of 178 people who are waiting to hear your words of wisdom, sir.
Wow, very exciting.
Would you mind just giving the audience just a brief kind of an introduction to kind of who you are and kind of what you do and kind of what you've worked on in the past? I've told them that you're the composer behind some of the Doctor Who music that's in the game, but I know that's not all that you have worked on in the past, is it?
Right, so I've been in the industry for actually 28 years or so, so you would consider me a veteran. I started out with the Commodore 64, worked my way through the Amiga computer and various console games up to where I'm now, which is I'm doing music for projects like Doctor Who.
The Commodore 64. I don't think I ever had a Commodore. I had an Amiga and I had a BBC Micro, but I think I skipped the Commodore. But that's some serious games you've worked on there. So are there any other games that we're likely to have heard of that you've been a part of?
Yeah, I mean, as I did a lot of classics in those days. The Great Gianna Sisters, for example, is one of them. Then the Turrican series on the Amiga, which is probably what I'm best known for, and most fans know this. And then over the years, I've worked on big franchises. Even like I did a series of Star Wars games.
Oh wow! Which series was that?
The Rogue Squadron and Rogue Leader.
Oh, on the N64.
Yeah, and started with the N64 and then GameCube and stuff like that. And then I've also worked on with the guys who put the Doctor Who game together. I worked on War of the Worlds for Paramount.
Oh yeah.
That's how the connection is there. And I also worked on a Star Trek game. So it's like Doctor Who was like one of the final puzzle pieces in this science fiction franchise thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you would you say that your forte is particularly sci-fi based? Because a lot of those games, Star Trek, Doctor Who, War of the Worlds, have that kind of sci-fi thing. Is that something that's just kind of happened, or something that's a particular kind of passion of yours?
I'm just a big fan of sci-fi, and I think one of my strong points is just very memorable melodic music.
Yeah,
and that just it fits into that genre as well. You know, the major themes when you think about like Star Wars or whatever, they always had like a theme that you can immediately remember. I also worked, by the way, on the home versions of R-Type, starting with the Commodore 64 and Amiga, and even did an iPhone versions a couple years ago.
R-Type, that's the whole the little ship, isn't it? You fly along. It's a little kind of shoot 'em up, isn't it? When you go on the little spaceship.
Yes, and the specialty was that you could attach like little satellites to your ship that would shoot and have different abilities. Was a big hit in the arcade world.
Yeah, that's a classic, that one, isn't it? That's a very kind of well-known franchise. Yeah, my memory's kicking in now with R-Type. Fantastic. All right, guys. If you, I'm going to keep asking Chris some questions, but if you've got any questions that you would like to put to Chris, please could you use the method I discussed a few minutes ago. If you put !question space and then put your question, I'll be able to spot it popping up on my screen. And if I think your question's interesting and I like the question, or even if you just want to, there's loads of people already actually, Chris, in the chat saying that they love R-Type and commenting on some of it. In fact, always mute the... Sorry, this is his name, sorry, I'm not calling him this. Always mute the weirdo has said, I wonder how Chris got into making music for games. Would you mind telling us a little bit about how you kind of ended up there?
Yeah, I was always interested in music. My family was very musical oriented. They had pianos in the house. My grandma was a well-known piano teacher in the area. And so I started with music at a very early age, and then I got very interested in electronic music. I heard some sounds on the radio that sounded different than what I was used to, and one of them was like the Popcorn song from the 70s. the one that goes like dit, 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 that kind of thing, you know.
Oh,
And
exactly. Jean-Michel
that
Jarre,
one.
wasn't it? Or something? No, what was that?
I think the group was called Hot Butter. Yeah, but it was like one of those things that really stood out for me, and I wanted to know what a synthesizer is, and I learned about it. I was a big fan then later on of Tangerine Dream and Vangelis and Kraftwerk and all those pioneers of electronic music. And I always wanted to do something like that, but I could never afford the machinery that was necessary, you know, the synthesizers. And then I read that the Commodore 64 had a synthesizer sound chip, and I was really like intrigued by that, and I was able to afford that with some help of my parents. And so that's how it got started. And then first I wanted to get into game design and game programming, but that didn't work out the way I wanted it. But I combined programming with making music, and that's how I started my career.
And are you happy with the way that your career? I mean, do you ever feel, oh, you wish you'd stayed in the programming side of it, or were you very happy to end up on the kind of music creative side?
No, that's fine. I mean, I did pretty hardcore programming in those early days because you had to. There were just no tools available that you could use. So I did actually learn assembly language and programmed the CPUs and stuff like that. But over the years, it's gotten much better. I mean, now you can anybody with musical talent can really do kick-ass soundtracks these days.
Just to interrupt you for a second there, Chris. You've probably noticed this in the game, guys, but I have been horrifically poisoned by some of those guys at the beginning. Some of those enemies at the beginning. In fact, I've got 999 turns of poison left. So the tactic we're having to use in this particular level is heal and heal and heal and heal and heal and heal, and hope for the best. So we may die horribly. I think this is Lee's way of probably trying to say that I should have brought the Paul McGann doctor in here as well. Let me ask you some of the questions from the chat here, if I can, Chris. The appropriately named Doctor 07 has asked, will there be a soundtrack available for the game at all?
That would certainly be interesting. It would be rather an EP at the moment because the selection of music pieces is pretty small, but I would definitely be interested in it. We would have to discuss that with the BBC, I think.
And did you, obviously, because the Doctor Who theme music itself is in the game, did you have any involvement with that kind of particular mix at all?
I did actually do a remix of the theme, which I thought was very cool, and the team liked it as well. But in the end, the BBC decided they wanted to have their original theme from the TV show in there. But it's still here, so that would be obviously a nice thing to add to an EP. And I hope also that I could possibly contribute more music to it over time. So.
Well, that's what I was going. That's one a good follow-up question actually. I mean, obviously, with season 5 coming up soon, do you know will the new levels have any new music in? Do you know?
Well, that's something you gotta ask Susan.
Okay. Fair enough. Let me have a look at what else these guys are asking. Here's an interesting one. The last question didn't appear for you guys on the stream. Apologies for that, but hopefully this one will be all right. There we go. That Hulock girl asks, hi Chris, I'm doing a music GCSE. Can you give me some tips for composing music? Thank you very much.
Oh, so I mean,
that's quite a big open question, that one, isn't it?
I know, it is a very open question. I mean, if she's interested to get into game music, I definitely have some tips that I can give. And first and foremost, besides like talent, you need a really big portion of tenacity. Because this is like a very competitive business nowadays. When I started out, I was very lucky that there were only a handful of people who were doing this kind of thing, especially with the programming that was involved. But now you have like Hollywood composers who go into game audio because they don't get enough music gigs in the film industry. So, but nevertheless, I mean, if you got the chops, if you got the talent, this can be a very rewarding business to be in. And there are definitely resources like the Game Audio Network Guild, which is an American institution. which has a lot of resources available. And then there's different mailing lists for professionals that are interested in the space. There's the VGM list, the Video Games Musicians list. And yeah, I think there are even like colleges now that teach specific courses for game audio.
But when you actually are thinking about composing a piece of music, say for Doctor Who, and there's a question here which is relevant to that. Like, do you say watch Doctor Who episodes to build up to it, or did you watch Star Trek before you made the Star Trek music? I mean, do you kind of use the subject matter as inspiration for the tunes that you're going to write?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, with something like especially a franchise title, you want to not antagonize the fan base, and you want to do something that's appropriate for the series.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, first off, I was a big fan of the theme music for Doctor Who for a long time. I think that was like the first commercial electronic music ever. That was produced by the BBC in the 60s. And yeah, big fan of the sound. I wanted to get a little bit of that classic feel into the music, also into the the in-game music. So I combined a little bit of the older or classic electronic sounds with some orchestral elements, and that worked actually pretty well.
Did you I mean, are you a Doctor Who fan outside of the game? Obviously, you said you work with Tiny Rebel Games, but is this a show you watch at all? Are you a Whovian, or is this something that you had to kind of research because it was new to you as well?
Yes, totally. Big fan of Doctor Who. I'm watching the latest series, and not quite through yet. Just sorry about that.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
So yeah, no, a big fan of the series. I love the humor and everything. It's very fun.
I'm just concentrating here because my health is getting very, 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 very low, and I'm about to get attacked here. Let's see what other questions you have been asked before here. Oh yeah, so Soaring Heart here has said, did you watch some episodes of the show, which obviously we've kind of talked about, but do you have any kind of favourite episodes from the show at all, or a favourite Doctor from what you've watched?
I think the 2005 series. I don't know the name of the Doctor there, but he was very fun.
The one in the black jacket, the Christopher Eccleston Doctor, is that the
yes,
one? Yes,
exactly. But they all do a great job, and I enjoy everything and the quirkiness and everything. So it's very fun.
How do you go about making a piece of music that's, because this is a game, not like a piece of pop music. Like, this is a piece of music that's going to have to go kind of round and round and round, isn't it? Like, this is something the user's going to hear a lot. And how do you go about making a piece of music that is good but not kind of irritating, because even the best kind of piece of music, if you hear it too much, you get sick of. But one of the things I'm actually really impressed with the Doctor Who music with the legacy music, is that it's there and I enjoy it, but I never go, oh my god, it's this sound again, or it's this bit again. I mean, as a composer, how do you try and get that balance working?
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge, especially with a puzzle game. But I do my thing, and I listen to it over and over again myself. Mm-hmm. And then I just get a feel for it, if it's right, or if it needs some additional stuff or toning down or whatever, so it doesn't like get on your nerves. That was very important for this project, obviously.
I mean, do you even kind of say have kind of less melody in there for that reason? I mean, are they deliberately kind of more kind of like chord based rather than sound based, or is that not really how it works?
Correct. That's probably one of the things how you can approach that. Yeah. To make it more subdued and not so much in your face.
Obviously you've worked with Lee and Susan before on War of the Worlds, did you say it was?
Right.
So did you? How did working with them come about again? I mean, did they contact you? I mean, is this a team that is this like a long-term collaboration?
I would certainly hope so. I think they're actually fans of my stuff, which helps.
Yes.
And I've always had fun working with them. And for the War of the Worlds, we actually also recorded a live orchestra, which was very exciting.
Oh wow! Was that ever something that was up for grabs with the Doctor Who? Because I would assume that must be quite expensive to get a live group performing.
Yeah, it's definitely an additional expense, but it's not. I mean, it depends where you go. I mean, if you record in London or Los Angeles or some place like that, it would be
London
very
Philharmonic or something.
would be prohibitively expensive. But there are orchestras, particularly in Eastern Europe, where you can get quite a value for a soundtrack, and that's what we did, and we had fun with it. We enjoyed the result, and I hope I'll do it again in the future.
And if you did make, obviously, we'll obviously talk to Susan and Lee later. But if you did make more music for Doctor Who Legacy, do you have any ideas? I mean, would you kind of go what could we look forward to in the future if you were on there more? Like, would you kind of go more kind of like sound effects, or like lots of strings, or kind of dramatic theme music? I mean, where would you go next if you were going to take it further?
I wouldn't know at the moment, but I would probably play the new episodes first and then get a feel for it. And then usually something clicks, or you have like a certain idea, with a particular sound, or you play around with a soundscape of some sort. So it develops organically, I think, at that point.
And do you start with like I mean, obviously, I'm sure as many people in the audience, we pick up our little guitar and we bash out a few chords, or we get on the piano and get a little melody. Do you tend to start from the like you said, do you tend to start with with chords? Do you tend to start with melody? Do you just tend to start with a kind of like a theme? I mean, what's your because obviously linked to that question we had earlier from that girl. Sorry, I've forgotten her name. Sorry, Sam maybe. What's your kind of like absolute starting point for making kind of music like this?
I think that it depends. It's different from piece to piece, but often or most of the time, I really start with a melody line. And usually, when I sit in front of like my sequencer program, it's usually piano sound that I start out first. Sometimes I also load up other patches, obviously, and play around just to see if something gives me the inspiration, or if something clicks. That's the way to do it, I think.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Chris, on the live stream today. Guys, if you have enjoyed listening to Chris, and I'm sure you have, it's been a really fascinating interview. If you wouldn't mind expressing your thanks in the stream. It's been really interesting hearing about all of the different things that go into making a computer game over the last few weeks. Speaking to the producer, speaking to Susan and Lee, and now speaking to you. So thank you for giving us that kind of insight into the audio into the game as well. So thank you so much for joining us, Chris, and I hope you have enjoyed it.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Take care, and bye-bye.
Okay, until then, bye.
Alright guys, we are going to, first of all, massive thank you for Chris for joining us there, and I can see your gratitude as well. I will just make sure that he knows he has been thanked, in case, I'm not sure if he's actually in the room or not. I will message him tons of thanks on the stream, which is great. Okay, it's time for our first giveaway. We will speak to Lee very, very soon, but it is time for our first giveaway. We have heard all about Chris and the music, so I think it's